Section 2.4 through 2.7 are all about multiplying and dividing real numbers. So first, I'm going to do a simple review about multiplying real numbers. You know that if you multiply two things that have opposite signs, so if you multiply something that's positive and something that's negative, it's going to equal a negative answer. Or if you have the same sign, this is a different sign. If you have the same sign, so if you multiply a positive and a positive, you're going to get a positive. Or if it's a negative and a negative, you're going to also get a positive. So if it's the same sign, you get a positive answer, different, you get a negative answer. So if we have negative 3 times 2, we're going to get negative, and then 2 times 3 is 6. It's negative because these have different signs. Over here we have negative 4 times negative 2. A negative times a negative is going to give us a positive. So your answer is positive 8. Now let's review the distributive property. In the distributive property, we take whatever's on the outside of the parentheses and we distribute it to every single term on the inside. So you must multiply by every single thing on the inside. So we're going to take this 4 and multiply times the y, and also times the 3. You must multiply by both of them. That's the distributive property. So if we do 4 times y, we get 4y. Then keep the sign plus, and 4 times 3 is 12. And that is your answer. It can also look backwards. The number can be on the other side of the parenthesis. Like over here we have an 8 on the outside on the right. But it's the same thing. You're going to distribute 8 to this n and 8 to the 2. When you're multiplying this backwards, it's important to keep everything in the same order so you don't get your negative signs mixed up. So I'm going to keep 8 times 2 in this first spot right here. So I'm going to do 8 times 2, which gives me 16. And then keep the sign minus. 8 times n is just 8n. So this is your answer. So it's important to keep 8 times 2 first because 2 comes first. Otherwise your negative sign is going to get all flipped around. Alright, I do want you to do this one in your notes. Distribute the negative 2 to both the x and the negative and the 7. Over here, we're just distributing this negative sign. And if you need to, you can put a 1 here because there is a 1 sitting there. If there's no number, it's just a negative sign, it is just like a negative 1. So you're going to distribute the negative sign to both the 2x and the negative 11. And all a negative does is change all the signs. So a negative times 2x is going to make it negative 2x. And a negative times negative 11 is going to make it positive 11. Because a negative times a negative makes a positive. So that is your answer. Let's talk about terms and coefficients and what those are. The terms are the different things that are being added together. So this is one term, this is a term, this is a term. It's all the things being added together. So each of these whole things is a term. Coefficients are the numbers in front of the variables. So this would be coefficient. And in front of this x, remember if there's no number there, it's like there's a 1 there, so here the coefficient would be 1. So the coefficients are the numbers in front of the variables, and again the variables are your letters. And then if there's no variables, just like this 8, this is a constant. So each whole group of these is a term, and within each term, the number in front of the letter is a coefficient. And if it's just a number, that's called a constant. So what we can do is we can simplify things by adding like terms, things that are the same. If you get an expression like this, we have 7 times w minus 5, and then plus 3w. If you can ever distribute, like here we have a 7 outside of this quantity right here, you need to distribute first before we can add like terms. Order of operations tells us we have to multiply first before we can add, and the distributive property is multiplying. So here we're going to distribute this 7 through and multiply first. So 7 times W gives us 7W, and then 7 times the 5, we have a minus 35. Keep that sign. And then write the rest out, plus 3W. Now after we distributed, we see that we have two terms that have a W. These are like terms. We can add them together. So we can add 7W plus, use the sign in front of this number, 7W plus 3W, which gives us 10W. So we added those, and now all we have left is the minus 35, so we just put that on the end. And there's no more like terms to add together, so this is your answer. I would like you to go ahead and try and simplify this one in your notes. You're going to first distribute the -2 and then add your like terms. Now I have a list of terms here, and we're just going to label if they're like terms or not like terms. So between 3x and -7x, are they like terms? Yes, they are like terms. You can add these together because they both have just an x. If you're looking to see if things are like terms, you're looking at the variables. You're trying to see if they have the same variables. And then you add together the numbers in front, just like we did above. So if we look at 6w and 8y, are these like terms? No, they're not. We have a w and a y. You can't add together a w and a y. So no, these are not like terms. In the next one, we have our variables as y squared, y squared, y squared. Even though the numbers in front are different, the letters are the same. They're all y squared. So yes, these are like terms. Here, these are all like terms as well. They're all just constants. So we could add all those together if we needed to. Between 4x and 4x squared, look at the variables. So we have x and x squared. Are they the same? No, they're not like terms. So I would like you to determine if both of these are like terms or not in your notes. The second part of the lesson is about dividing real numbers. And dividing real numbers has the same rules as multiplying. If you have different signs, your answer is going to equal a negative. So if you had a positive divided by a negative, that's going to give you a negative answer. Or if you had the same signs, if you had a positive divided by a positive, it's going to equal positive, or a negative divided by a negative, it's going to equal positive as well. Same rules as before. So we're going to do examples that divide fractions. And when you're dividing fractions, instead of dividing by the fraction, you can instead multiply by the reciprocal, or what's called the multiplicative inverse. So for example, if you have -20 divided by -3 over 5, what you can do is write down the first number, change the divide to multiply, and flip your second fraction. And the little song that goes with it is, dividing fractions, my oh my, flip the second fraction and multiply. So instead of division, we're multiplying and flip the second fraction. And multiplying fractions is easy because you just multiply straight across. So we have 20 times 5, which is 100. And this is really like 20 over 1 if you need to put the 1 there. And 1 times 3 is 3. And we have a negative times a negative, so our answer should be positive. And you can just leave it as 100 over 3. I don't really even want a decimal. Just leave it as 100 over 3. As long as this is simplified. And it is. So let's look at -3/8 divided by 3/10. So you leave the first number, -3/8, change divide to multiply, and flip the second fraction, and then just multiply straight across. So before you multiply, you can cancel things out to reduce your fractions. So like here, the 3 and the 3 will cancel out to be 1, and you can take a 2 out of both 8 and 10, so this becomes 4 and a 5. So then when you multiply straight across, we have 5 over 4, and we have a negative times a positive fraction, so your answer is going to be negative. And again, I do not want a decimal. You can leave it as negative 5/4. That is a beautiful answer. So I want you to go ahead and do this one in your notes. 18 divided by negative 2 over 9. Use the rules we did up here. Leave this alone, change that to multiply, flip the second fraction. The last thing I want to give you is simplifying expressions that look like this, when you have a quantity on the top and just a number on the bottom, and how you go about dividing these. It's pretty simple. If we have 2x minus 8 over negative 4, that means we're dividing by negative 4. What you're going to do is divide each term by negative 4. So you'll do 2x divided by negative 4, and then negative 8 divided by negative 4. So first let's look going this way. We have 2x divided by a negative 4. So 2 over negative 4, one is positive, one is negative. So the answer is going to be negative, and 2 over 4 is 1/2. And then you just leave the x. Then divide the next two. So I have negative 8 because this is minus 8. Keep that negative there. So negative 8 divided by negative 4 is a positive 2. So then plus 2. And this is your answer because there's no like terms to add. So I want you to do this one in your notes. And again, you're going to take each one divided by negative 5. So you're going to do negative 10 divided by negative 5. And then negative 20 divided by negative 5, and get your answer.